I don't want to sound crazy or, hyperbolic, but I mean, I think we might all be really, really surprised by how much this thing can go up and does go up. I saw Samson Mao in Atlanta. So, I mean, he's just like willing to bet his kids on the fact that we're going to $1 million. Jesus, if we go to $1 million, that's going to be life altering and frankly, a shock to the existing legacy.
Imagine Bitcoin hitting $1 million per coin. Sounds absolutely unbelievable, right? But financial expert Larry Lepard has a different perspective, and it might not be as far-fetched as you think. Here's why. Globally, there are over $700 trillion in financial assets just floating around out there. Stocks, bonds, real estate, you name it. But Bitcoin is still just a tiny slice of that pie. Now, what if that slice starts growing? This could be the start of something massive. Remember when Bitcoin ETFs saw an $8 billion inflow? That move alone led to a staggering 37x increase in Bitcoin's market cap. Now imagine what could happen if even a fraction more of those trillions shifted into Bitcoin. The ripple effect on the entire finance industry would be nothing short of groundbreaking. If that $8 billion inflow was just the beginning, the next big wave could be closer than any of us realize. So get ready, because the world of finance as we know it might be about to change in a huge way.
No, you can, because if it's really going to go to 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, 60's cheap. I mean, there will come a time when it won't be cheap. I mean, there'll come a time when it'll kind of, it's fully distributed and its growth will, kind of echo the growth in productivity and the improvements in society. But we're a long ways away from that. We're at least 10 years away from that. So, to me, it's just obvious, and I hope more people wake up to it, because and the reason I'm such a big advocate for it is that I know it'll make the world a better place, and I think it's important. I want to try and save people from dying in the legacy system, because the legacy system is going to die. I mean, and there will be pain for people, which is sad, but it just is. And just like there was pain. I mean, if you were in the buggy whip business and the automobile got introduced, you were fucked. I mean, if you're making, buggy, carriages, you're making horse-drawn carriages, you're fucked. I mean, it happens. It's sorry, but that's how it happens. And it's kind of a similar model here. So,
yeah, people recognizing patterns. Some do, and a lot don't. It makes
a
me
lot
think
don't. Yeah, and they're not willing to listen to it, and they think it's too good to be true. I mean, I get all this. I get all the FUD, and I also get. I mean, I think to me, it's tragic. I mean, it created a great opportunity for some really smart people to buy at 15,000, but I think it's tragic what Sam Bankman-Fried and all the shitcoins did to the space. I mean, I think they really set us back quite a bit, because, I have a lot of smart friends who are like, I'm not getting involved with that. There's a bunch of frauds in that area, and
yes.
I mean, I get it. I mean, if you're just looking at it cursorily, I get it. Sam Bankman-Fried was a master fraud. I mean, we all knew it. We were telling him. We were writing letters to the SEC saying, you got to investigate this guy. This is bad shit. But, and as we all know, Bitcoin's not a shit coin. It's completely different than all those other coins. But, to somebody who's lazy or just hasn't taken the time to do the work, they could easily conclude that, this is just another one of those. So I get it.
According to investment and gold stock fund manager Larry Lepard, Bitcoin is more than just a financial asset. He believes it's a revolutionary force that could reshape society as we know it. There are talks about the possibility of Bitcoin reaching jaw-dropping values, even up to $1 million per coin. But Larry emphasizes that its true power goes beyond the price tag. According to Lepard, Bitcoin is a safety net to protect us against the collapse of traditional financial systems, which are increasingly unstable and controlled by a small group of powerful entities.
We've all seen the chart of U.S. federal. I mean, we all know what a debt doom loop is. We all know how that's worked out. James Lavish has done a great job of laying that out, right? And as a result of that, I mean, they're trapped. I mean, they have to continue printing money, which will drive more inflation, which will drive interest rates higher, which will then drive the federal deficit higher. And, for the first time in my lifetime, the United States government is starting to look like a third world country. I mean, we're basically going to have to print the money to cover our interest cost and to cover our debt repayment.
By decentralizing wealth and putting financial control back into the hands of individuals, Bitcoin has the potential to create a more equitable and resilient financial landscape. It's not just about getting rich, it's about building a new system that protects people from economic chaos and offers a foundation for a better, more secure future. At this point, buying Bitcoin really is our act of financial self-defense.
It's a hell of a broken system, and anybody who's disgusted with it the way I am and the way you are, needs to recognize that buying Bitcoin is not only an act of financial self-defense, but it's also an act of financial warfare, and that we got to destroy their system for, so that our kids will live in a better country. I mean, it's just absolutely horrible. But it's the sharpest spear, and we're all charging up the hill, ready to kill the central bank. I mean, that's kind of what it is. It doesn't appear to most of them today to be an existential threat. I mean, you and I both know it is an existential threat, and that eventually it's going to eat the entire fiat world, and we're going to be denominating our lives in sats. Okay, we know that, but they don't know that yet. But they're going to learn that as they watch the prices go up. And yeah, I mean, there are guys like Joe Carlasari, who's active on Bitcoin Twitter, who trusts the government, I think, and believes that they would never do a 6102. That's something odd in the past. To which I just say absolute and utter bullshit. I mean, they changed the short selling rules in 2008. They changed the rules in March of 2023 for Silicon Valley. I mean, they change the rules whenever it suits their purposes, and they need to keep their system going, and their system's broken. And when it becomes very, very clear that Bitcoin is eating their system and helping to cause their system to fail, I think entirely they will, either 6102 it or 90% tax it, or whatever it is they do to it. It'll be the Save American Currency Act, and they'll figure out a way to determine that we're all evil people who are ruining their currency. But I think that's a ways out, because that's not obvious today. I mean, it'll become more obvious over time. What are the odds in that? How do I rate that? I don't know. I really don't. It's probably 50-50. I mean, but I do know that those who are on the inside and who control the system, they just have an enormous vested interest in not having us succeed. Because, if we succeed, all fiat wealth goes to zero. And so, they can't really stop us. I mean, and they can't really stop the system. It's too distributed, etc. So, they've got a problem on their hands.
Bitcoin's incredible rise, however, isn't without its challenges, especially when you consider the risk of government intervention. As Bitcoin gains value and begins to disrupt the traditional financial system, it's bound to catch the eye of governments that aren't too happy about losing control. We could see heavy regulations coming down the pipeline, or even extreme measures reminiscent of the 6102 Act, where the US government wants for citizens to sell their gold. This creates a real tension between the decentralized power of Bitcoin and the centralized control that the governments are used to wielding. If the government decides to crack down, it could drastically alter the Bitcoin landscape, making it harder for people to freely use and hold their digital assets. However, Lepard states that this is still going to take some time, but that doesn't nullify the threat still. It's a clear reminder that while Bitcoin offers a path to financial freedom, it also brings significant risk, especially when those in power start to feel the heat.
Until 2034, there will be decent mining reward. In 2034, 99% of the Bitcoin that's ever going to be mined will have been mined. And there'll only be 1% left, and it takes another 100 years for the balance. So at that point, effectively, you've got a stock to flow there's almost no flow. When you got 1% coming in over the course of a year or 100 years, that's not much flow. So it becomes incredibly hard money at that stage, and it's going to be much, much higher than it is today.
Bitcoin scarcity is a game changer that sets it apart from anything else in the financial world. Unlike traditional currencies that can be printed endlessly, Bitcoin has a hard cap of 21 million coins, and that's it. No more will ever be created. This built-in scarcity is what makes Bitcoin so unique and valuable, especially in a world where inflation and currency devaluation are constant concerns. As time goes on, this scarcity is only going to become more pronounced. The closer we get to that 21 million limit, the more people will realize just how limited this supply really is. This isn't just about numbers on a screen. It's about the reality that as demand for Bitcoin grows, there simply won't be enough to go around. And as more people and institutions start to recognize the true value of Bitcoin, we could see a massive accumulation of wealth among those who were early adopters. This scarcity, combined with increasing demand, is a recipe for significant wealth creation, especially as the world continues to shift towards digital assets and away from traditional inflation-prone currencies. Bitcoin's scarcity could send its value through the roof, turning it into much more than just an investment. It's a game changer for the financial world. But with that big potential comes big risk, especially if the government decides to step in. So as we dive into this digital revolution, the question remains, are we ready for what comes next?